Well, I'm glad to be back with you all. I've missed the past couple of Shabbats. For those of you that don't know, I was in New York for about 8 days. The reason I was there, as a function of being on staff with Chosen People Ministries and being in the seminary program, the Charles Feinberg Center, I've been, for those of you that know, I've been slowly moving through what should be a 2.5-year program if you're doing it full time. I've been doing it for 6 years now, with about 3 more left to go. And that's because I'm in full-time ministry already. So my life has always been about doing things out of order, and this is no exception. But what they did, because we have remote students from all over the world who haven't necessarily had the experience of living or being in Brooklyn for the program, what they did is invited all of the Feinberg students to come for a week for us to have fellowship together, and we had seminars on Jewish ministry and you know, our calling as part of being in Messianic Jewish ministry, and then just lots of experiencing kind of the culture of Jewish New York, which is a wonderful thing. I ate my weight in pastrami easily, which is a borderline holy experience as far as I'm concerned. But what I want to just tell you quickly about there were so many wonderful things that went on. Firstly, just other students who I've been studying with and fellowshipping with, and we've only known each other virtually for years. We got to be together and fellowship together, and people from other countries. We had folks there from the UK and from Australia and from Turkey, and it was quite a gathering. As far as some of the cultural things that we experienced and did, if you ever have the opportunity to do this, if you're up there, there's a synagogue in Brooklyn, a historic synagogue called oh goodness, I said it this morning. It's the name of the street that it's on. It begins with an E, and it's completely escaped me right now. I'll remember as soon as I'm done talking. Anyway, it was the first synagogue built in New York by Eastern European Jewish people when they came to the States, and it's historic. It's been turned into a museum. It's very, very beautiful. And the reason I'm bringing it up is only because we are on the cusp of having our own building again. And by the way, just a kind of vague update, we are expecting finally to close on that building by the end of this month. Yeah. So that's very, very exciting. Of course, there's going to be work to be done to the property before it's worship ready for us. But we'll keep you up to date as those details come in, and we're going to need some help, of course, moving the office and the library over to the new building. There's a lot of fun stuff happening that's coming on the horizon. However, as I was touring this historic synagogue and I was mentally noting all of these just areas of beauty. You know, we want our place of worship not to be a cathedral in a sense, you know, that's just so awe-inspiring because of its riches or anything like that, but we want it to be a beautiful place in which we worship. We do that to our homes, right? We make our homes beautiful. We make them comfortable because it's where we live, and our synagogue, in a sense, can be a reflection in that same way. So I was very inspired, and you'll probably see some of that as we move into the new place. The second very special experience that we had, I shared this with the Torah study this morning. There's a young woman who has had a long-standing relationship with Chosen People Ministries. It's a Jewish woman from an Orthodox background, in fact, from a Satmar background. So she's from an ultra-Orthodox, from community. And she no longer lives in the community, but she does walking tours of the Williamsburg area of Brooklyn, which is just an ultra-Orthodox area. And so she took our group on this walking tour, explaining not only the history, but just the culture, you know, what a day in the life of those who live in an ultra-Orthodox community, what it's like for them, for the Hasidim. And it was very inspiring. It was very encouraging to me. What the Lord did through that experience was, and this was the entire point of the entire trip, was a refreshment, just a fresh sense of the urgency and the heart that God has given me, and by extension our community, to reach Jewish people with the gospel. Not just the ultra-Orthodox, of course, but we make inroads where we can. But God has called us to a particular calling to reach Israel and the Jewish people with the gospel. And he really he refilled me, refreshed me in that way. And so I want to relay that heart to all of you. So thank you for your prayers and for your support. During that time, while I was away, about a week and a half ago now, I celebrated the 26th anniversary of coming to faith in Yeshua. So I came to the Lord 26 years ago. Yeah. The reason it's easy for me to remember is because I came to the Lord on my birthday. So I was born and reborn on the same day. So every year I get to celebrate that, which is very meaningful to me. Just so happened that's something that the Lord did. And it's a special thing between me and him. And I'd love to tell you, I'd be lying, but I'd love to tell you that every day since has been just overflowing with faith and godly virtue, and I have been a perfectly mature, godly man from day one without ever wavering. And I know all of you would agree. That would be deeply inaccurate if I were to say that. Like anyone else, I have had the opportunity, many opportunities to put off the patterns of the flesh, the patterns of the old man, who I was before I knew him. Every day, in fact, I have those opportunities, and so do you. I can choose to put them off, or I can choose to let them hang around. They're not a part of me anymore. That's what being born again is all about. I'm no longer a slave to sin and death. Those patterns are not part of the new man or the new woman that you might be. But we have a choice to put them off or let them stick around. I've experienced, and maybe you've experienced as well, seasons of great faith, and maybe some other seasons where my faith has been significantly challenged. Anybody else? Yeah? Okay. Those of you that didn't raise your hands, you're lying. I can say that I've never worried too much when that does happen, because I know well from my experience that refreshment in my faith will reliably come in due time. When you feel the exhaustion, when you feel maybe a separation from the Lord, we can know that it's temporary. It's not where we're destined to be. And there's many different ways for us to be refreshed in our faith. Some of them are things that we can do very practically. We should expect that, by the way, because if what we have with the Lord is a relationship, it would be strange to think that that relationship would remain strong or even become more strengthened if we don't invest in it. We would never think that about a relationship with a person. If I meet a person once and then we never speak again, it would be strange of me to think that we're best friends and only growing closer all the time. How could that be? How could that be? There's different ways for us to be refreshed. Maybe in your life it's worship music that reminds you of the love and the majesty of God, and we have a special time of worship together. It's why music is so central in our worship. It does something to us. Music is very spiritual. It's something that speaks to our hearts as part of our design in mankind. Maybe it's quiet time spent reading the Bible, learning, or more likely relearning deep truths about the nature of life and reality and who God is and who you are in light of him. For me, in addition to the study and message prep that I do as a function of my position in my ministry, it's imperative for me when I wake up first thing to spend some time in the Word and prayer. It has to be first thing. It has to be first thing for a number of reasons. Firstly, because it empowers me and sets my priorities and sets my perspective for the day, but it also makes sure that it doesn't fall off because of other opportunities and priorities, right? It's become a rhythm that I've developed into my life. Just a chapter, just a prayer that stems from what I've read. It's not deep study necessarily, but it's time with the Lord that is foundational for my day. And I encourage you, if that's not a rhythm in your life, to develop that. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to have a stack of commentaries and, read it in Greek and Hebrew only. And that can come maybe at different times in your day, but it's a touch point with the Lord, and it's reading the truth of his word, and it sets our eyes on him. Maybe for you, it's Speaking of prayer, another way to be refreshed is heartfelt prayer where you speak and listen honestly with him, and he cleanses you in that time. I hope you've experienced that. If you haven't, make the time. Spend the time with the Lord, either by yourself or with some trusted brothers and sisters in the Lord. It can be revolutionary. Of course it can. We're talking to the King of the universe who has given you the opportunity to come into his presence and speak with him. He's invited you there. What an honor. What a life-changing opportunity. If you ever got to meet an earthly king or queen, you'd be telling people about that the rest of your life. Let me tell you about the time I got to meet the king. How much more so the God of the universe, who we have quarter with constantly. He never tells us, I don't have time for you, I got to schedule you in next millennia. He has time. He's inviting you in. Take advantage of that and listen for him. Our prayer is not just a one-way, dump all my stuff on him and then go. No, he wants it to be a conversation. He speaks through the truth of his word. He impresses his truth upon our hearts. It's a conversation. Maybe that refreshment comes for you through hearing testimony from other believers that spark your heart. It's part of the benefit of being part of community. We get to hear about what the Lord is doing in each other's lives, support one another, and celebrate together. It's a wonderful thing. Maybe, speaking of fellowship, maybe it's sweet fellowship with other believers where you can see God's heart in and through them. Maybe they have a thoughtful word from you from the Lord. Any and all of these things are crucial for us to experience refreshment in the Lord. Our faith can be refreshed in any and all of these ways. And I'm thinking about this especially because in our Torah portion, the people of Israel needed refreshment deeply. In Deuteronomy 7 through 11, which is our Torah portion for the week, the Parashat is called Ekev, which means it's like because, but it's in a sense a consequence. In these chapters, Moses is continuing to recount God's faithfulness, to recount God's mercy that he has given to his people through the wilderness. The people of Israel are ready to enter the promised land. We're at the end of the Torah here, and he is giving them this wisdom for the end of this journey. He knows he's not going with them into the land, and he's making sure for their benefit as they go in that they are set up as a nation and they know who they are, so that they don't just go into the land and look at the peoples who live there and start to live like them, forgetting who God has truly made them to be. He's giving them this refreshment of instructions, a repeat of much of what he's already taught them from the word of the Lord, so that they are firm in their identity. And what he's telling them and reminding them is that Israel was over and over forgiven of their missteps. Israel over and over was protected from her enemies. And Israel over and over was miraculously provided for, all by the hand and the will of our Father. Here's what it says in Deuteronomy 10, 14 to 16. Behold, to the Lord your God belong heaven and the highest heavens, the earth and all that is in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your fathers to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, you over all the other peoples as it is this day. So circumcise your heart and do not stiffen your neck any longer. This speaks to God's power and God's love and God's station over all creation and over all other spiritual powers. He is sovereign over all of it. He is creator. But it also proves Israel's chosenness, her status in the eyes of God by what he has done, by way of his favor toward them, even when they stray. And on top of that, it gives his people clear instruction on how to react to his favor toward them. Okay, God loves us. Now, what do I do with that? God has made us to be a people. How do we live? He says, circumcise your heart. A circumcision in the physical sense, the tradition is built to be a symbol of faith. God had promised that through the Abrahamic covenant, that he would bless all families of the earth. That would ultimately be fulfilled in the coming of the Messiah. And God called Abraham to circumcise his son and their sons thereafter as a symbol of faith, that that Messiah would not come through human means. That is what the marking on the flesh is all about. That we will not bring about the Messiah through our own devices, but he will provide miraculously. There's nothing that we can do. It's something he has to do. So when God says to circumcise your heart, when he's speaking to Israel, it's the same concept. It's a marking in a spiritual sense. We're talking metaphorically, right? We're not talking about surgery to your heart. Metaphorically, set your faith upon him so that you know that your goodness, your well-being for the future will not come as a result of the work of your own hand, but only because of the God who has called you and made you. Stiffen your neck no longer, he says. Stop trusting in yourself and in your own strength or any other people or any other power, and instead put your trust in Adonai, the creator of heavens and earth. Obey his word, believe what he says, do as he prescribes. That is eternally good advice. It was true for Israel, it's true for us. In the Torah, Israel often panicked about whether God would continue to provide and protect them through the wilderness and after. We see the panic. Oh, what if we run out of food? What if we run out of water? We see it over and over. And that happened well beyond the wilderness. We see it throughout all of Israel's history. That's normal. That's a natural human thing to do. To take our eyes off of the truth, to look at the wind and the waves, the circumstances of life, and go, ooh, I don't know if he's got it. I don't know if he's got it. Our Haftarah reading in Isaiah 49 expresses that God could not and never will forget his children. He has devoted himself completely to them forever. Here's what we read in Isaiah 49, 14 to 16. But Zion said, the Lord has abandoned me. And the Lord has forgotten me. That wasn't true, but it was panic among the people. He says, can a woman forget her nursing child? We've got a lot of mothers, new mothers in here. Do you think you can just wake up one day and forget? That's ludicrous. Can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you, he says. Behold, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are continually before me. The Lord has never taken his eyes off of his people. So I ask you, have you ever had a season in your life where you feel like God has abandoned you? It's okay to say yes if the answer is yes. It's also okay to say no. We don't have to put that on. I'm talking about even after coming to know Yeshua, after being born again. Have you ever felt forgotten? It happens occasionally. And here's how it happens. It happens when we lose sight of the truth and our circumstances feel more real than his presence. But listen to how he responds. When God hears his children panic in that way, can a woman forget her nursing child? Any mother will tell you that that is utterly impossible. Even if you want to for a few minutes just to have some peace, you can't. You can't forget. And he goes on to say that he's inscribed his people on the palms of his hands. That probably sends your mind, it does to mine, to the crucifixion. But let me ask you, has there ever been a day in your life that you haven't looked at your hands? You may not have consciously noticed, but they're there, right? Pending you having them. You've seen your hands every single day. They're perpetually before you, right? What he's saying is that his people and their circumstances are perpetually before his eyes, on his mind, and top priority. And if they know who he is, if God's speaking to his children, if they know who he is and how important they are to him, then we have nothing to worry about. If you know me, you know I have a significant part of my life that is nerdy. I like math, I like science. I want to share with you some scientific trivia, as it were, to help give you an idea of the majesty and the power of the God who says he loves us. Astronomers estimate that the Milky Way, this is just the galaxy in which our planet is, our solar system is, the Milky Way contains up to 400 billion stars of various sizes and brightnesses. And as we peer through our telescopes, we can see fuzzy patches in the sky, which astronomers now know are other galaxies like our Milky Way. These massive structures can contain more or less stars than our own Milky Way. There are spiral galaxies out there with more than 1 trillion stars, and giant elliptical galaxies with 100 trillion stars. There's tiny dwarf galaxies with a fraction of our number of stars. So let's think about it. How many galaxies are there then? According to astronomers, again, there are probably more than 170 billion galaxies in the observable universe, stretching out into a region of space 13.8 billion light years away from us in all directions. And so, if you multiply the number of stars in our galaxy by the supposed number of galaxies in the universe, you get approximately 10 to the 24th power stars. That's 1 followed by 24 zeros. That is a septillion stars. There's no way you can even begin to fathom the size, the enormity. But, and wait, there's more. There could be more than that. It's been calculated that the observable universe is a bubble of space 47 billion light years in all directions. It defines the amount of the universe that we can see, light that has traveled from those far reaches back to us so that we can see it. This is a minimum value. This is the absolute smallest that the universe can be. And if you're like, I didn't sign up for this, well, stick with me. The universe could be much bigger. It's just that we can't even detect those stars outside of that limit because they're outside of what we call the observable universe. It's even possible that the universe is infinite, stretching on forever with an infinite number of stars. So add a couple more zeros. Maybe an infinite number of zeros. That's a lot of stars in the universe. And all of that is in the palm of his hand. He reigns over all creation perfectly. And yet, he wrote a book explaining to humanity, infinitesimally small in the span of all of creation. He wrote a book explaining to us how much he cares for us. He became a human and died for us. In the midst of a septillion stars, He wants to be in relationship with you and with me. What? Matthew 16, 15 to 18, he said to them, "But who do you yourselves say that I am?" Yeshua speaking to his disciples. "You've heard the rumors out there, what the people are saying. Who do you say that I am?" We all have a personal responsibility to answer that question, because we can't just go off of what other people think, what our family thinks, what our community thinks. I have to be reckoned myself before the Lord. He says, "Who do you say that I am?" And Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Yeshua said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." He's saying, you're right. And God is the one who has opened your eyes to see the truth. "And I also say to you that you are Peter." He gave him a new name. "And upon this rock," Peter, Kepha, it's a play on words. It means a rock or a stone. He says, "Upon this rock I will build my ecclesia," my believing community. "And the gates of Hades will not overpower it." There's a lot to say about this interaction. It's going to be out of scope for today. We'll eventually get there in our Matthew series, which we'll be back into next week. But the point I want to emphasize is that very last part, the promise that the worldwide body of believers, now part of the commonwealth of Israel, by faith in Yeshua the Messiah, the Son of the living God, cannot be overpowered by death or any influence of sin or destruction. The gates are impenetrable. We have nothing to fear. He is himself the result of God's promises. He is the blessing of the Abrahamic covenant and every covenant God has made with his people. Yeshua is the answer and the culmination of it all. So be refreshed. Let yourself be refreshed. Why sit around starving or dehydrated? We don't do that with our physical bodies most of the time. Don't do it spiritually. There's no reason. Our Father wants to refresh you in your spirit, to renew the truth within you, and to embolden you to live a powerful life of faith as a witness to the truth of Yeshua. Don't pass up the opportunity. And if you're sitting here and you said, well, I've never placed my faith in Yeshua as Messiah, you have an opportunity to do that right now, to begin a new life in him. It starts with the declaration of faith. It starts with repentance. Telling him in your heart, Lord, first of all, calling him Lord. Recognizing that there's nothing that you can do to fix your own situation. The Bible tells us that sin separates us eternally from God, and there's nothing that you can do to solve that problem on your own. It's why he sent Messiah, to save Israel and the world from a state of sin, which would keep us condemned for all eternity. Through his death and resurrection, because he, the sinless one, God in the flesh, gave his life willingly for us, through faith in him, we can have new life. We can be set free and have an eternal relationship with him. It means forever. You can do that now. I promise you that's a prayer he will answer. He always does.